exiles us to the outside perimeter of our camp, is he just going to leave us there until we can figure out some kind of deliverance? Are we totally on our own? What's to become of us? Hi, this is Barry Phillips, a 10-Minute Torah, day number 4, the Torah portion, Naso. Let's continue where we left off yesterday in Bamidbar, Numbers, chapter number 5, where we talked about the fact that Yah said to send those that were defiled to outside the camp. Verse 4 says, "And the children of Israel did so, to send them outside the camp, as Yahweh has spoken to Moshe, to the children, or so the children of Israel did." Now let's continue reading. "Speak to the children of Israel, when a man or a woman commits any sin that man commit in trespass against Yahweh, and that being is guilty, then they shall confess their sin which they have done, and he shall restore his guilt in its principal, plus 1/5 of it, and give it to whomever he has been guilty. But if a man has no relative to restore the guilt to, the guilt which is restored goes to Yahweh for the priest, in addition to the ram of the atonement with which atonement is made for him. And every contribution of all the set-apart gifts of the children of Israel which they bring to the priest becomes his, and every man's set-apart gifts becomes his. Whenever any man gives, the priest becomes his." Okay, so there is a process of restoration. It involves confession, acknowledgement of one's sin and one's guilt, plus the willingness to make amends, that is to make retribution, that is to make things right as is rightly determined. Now, Yeshua shows us the other side of those that are sent to the exile of outside the camp or the perimeter of the camp. Yeshua himself demonstrated going to those that were in the most need. So he went to the house of Jairus because his daughter had theoretically died. Yeshua said she was sleeping. Everyone in the house knew that she had ceased living. But Yeshua restored her to life. Yeshua went to a graveyard and raised up Elazar, whom we call Lazarus, from the dead. Now Elazar was a righteous man. He wasn't in a bad situation in the world it was afterwards. But the sisters were grieving, and because of their great grief and their great belief in Yeshua, to demonstrate that he says, "I am the resurrection," he brought Elazar, or Lazarus, back to life. Yeshua went to those that were lepers. He sought them out. He put himself in places where he would encounter them. And instead of chiding them about their situation, when they came to him and said, "Master, you can make us clean," their belief in him caused him to reach out his hand and actually touch them. That should have caused Yeshua then to become defiled, but it didn't. In this regard, he is the realm of the clean. He is the physical embodiment of this realm and that which is set apart. He wasn't bringing himself down to their uncleanness, but rather he was bringing them out of their uncleanness to his cleanness, to his set-apartness. That's the goal of restoration, is not to get down in the muck and the mire with those that are wallowing in it, but rather to find a way of bringing them out of that and back into a clean place of being. Current societal trends say, well, you got to identify with them. You got to understand them. Well, that's true to some degree, but it doesn't mean to identify with them by competing with them and their own sins, participating with them and their sinful lifestyle to understand them. Yah is not asking us to go undercover here and become as they are, but rather to find them and to offer them light in the middle of their darkness. Yeshua went to another graveyard in a place of the Gadarenes and found a man that was so infested with demonic powers that he cut himself, screamed in the night, and was bound with chains, all to no avail. This tormented soul of a man cried out when he saw Yeshua in great terror, that is, the demonic forces that were controlling him did, and he delivered him. It says that after all was done, that the man was found clothed and sitting at the feet of Yeshua in his right mind. The people of the township were so accustomed to his other personality and situation, and so shocked to see him sitting with his right mind restored, that they begged Yeshua to get out of town. Some places don't want revival. Not when it's going to so radically change lives that they don't know what to do with them. Think on that for a while. So Yeshua is the one who demonstrated the power of his priesthood by going to those who needed him the most and presented himself as an answer or their answer for their situation. When they trusted him and believed in him, he set them free and brought them back into the camp. However, when we study the Torah, we will also find that there is processes between leaving the perimeter of the camp and coming back home. It's not simply as simple as coming home and saying, I got a piece of paper signed by Yeshua that he set me free and I'm okay now. We've all perhaps had those situations where someone shows back up in our lives or our congregations after some episode, some situation previous, and says, I'm back. And I'm better now, and I promise, and I promise. And you know that that promise is not able to be kept. Not until there's been a demonstration of this other segment that we read about here, that one is acknowledging, first of all, what their problem is. If someone doesn't know what their problem is, they don't know how to be free from their problem. So when they begin to come confessing, this is what I did, this is why it was wrong, and this is what I know now to be right. Now you've got a situation where you can help someone. And then when they say, I am willing to make retribution, I am willing to deal with the offended parties that I've had in the past. I'm willing to reconcile. I'm willing to go through the conversations and the prayer times and the patience and the trust building to get back to a place where I can be a functioning member of your life, your family, your congregation, your community. If that's not being offered, if they're asking us to simply gloat over what's been done in the past, it's only going to happen again. No, we need to deal with our stuff. All of us have stuff. Every one of us. And it stinks. And it's ugly. And we sweep it away. But as we describe this about our relationships, it's vertical as well. Coming to Yah and saying, I'm acknowledging this is what I did. And I'm acknowledging that it was sinful and wrong. And this is what I know to be right from your word. I understand that this is rather what you want from me. And so I am willing to deal with my issues and reconcile and make retribution. Father, I'm willing to do what I need to do to fix this, because I want to be right with you. I want to be reconciled and restored to you in full power and full ability. We have to be willing to go through the processes, even after we say we're sorry. Think on this, pray about this, And we'll talk again tomorrow. Until then, shalom.